welcome back to the Whatnauts review show, where each week we have a different story to talk about of all sorts of different genres and mediums. It could be a TV show, movie, comic, all sorts of things. We read it or watch it and then come back here and talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa,
hello.
How's it going?
It's good. I had a mall day yesterday. Spent all day at the mall.
Getting all sorts of
I got a
shopping done.
blizzard. Not at the mall even. Separately later that night, I'm like, I want Dairy Queen because I haven't had Dairy Queen since like the year 2019. I got a drumstick blizzard.
Okay.
Which is a blizzard with like roasted peanuts and like chocolate covered cone pieces. I wanted to tell you because I think it's truly wonderful.
It absolutely is. I'm starting to think about that of like, this is like the first week that I can like go out and do things since I'm fully vaccinated now and can do all of that stuff. So starting to make plans slowly but surely.
You can have a mall day.
Fun.
Some lady in the Nordstrom cafe can tell you have beautiful skin.
There you go. I think my first stop will be my local comic book store. That's what I will want to go do. But let's see. My week has been okay, not as eventful as yours has been. Getting that mall and that blizzard in there. I've still been stuck inside. I've been watching that TV show MODOK. I finished season 1 of Preacher. All of that stuff. So I've still just been inside chilling, but it's been a good week. So
nice.
Good week indeed. Melissa, this week we are starting a brand new monthly series. We like to do these monthly series at the end of each month, in which we cover a longer story that we usually could not fit all into 1 week. For example, a TV show that has multiple seasons that we want to watch the whole thing of. We've covered things like Halt and Catch Fire. That's the one we did these past couple months. We've done Mr. Robot. We've done some comic books like Irredeemable. But starting this week, and what we will be covering for the next couple months at the end of each month, we are covering the Netflix show Dark. This is a German show. It's all about time travel, and I think it ranks up there in maybe one of my favorite shows of all time.
Wow.
Now, especially like going back because I've seen the entire show, and I'm now watching it again in its entirety, and then to like go back and see all the things when you know how it ends and all that stuff. It's just like, this is so good. I like this. So yeah, this is an interesting show. This is one I've mentioned here on the review show or on the Captain's Log many times, and we've actually technically covered it here at the Whatnauts before, way back when only season 1 was out. Me and my co-founder here at the Whatnauts, Paul, covered it back on the Whatnauts podcast. You guys can find that on our website. That's where you can get the podcast version. I think it's one of the few that we put up on YouTube from that old podcast, and it's consistently been one of our like highest performing things. And it's always really awkward when like one of our old things is like, it's like, man, it's still just kicking everything else's butt. Like, how do we like make something new that like can outdo this? So I've been wanting to talk about this show with someone, and so Melissa, you graciously was like, yes, let's do that one. You've mentioned this so much, all that stuff. So, I mean, besides me blabbing about it a lot, had you heard about this show? Had you know people that have watched it? No?
No, I think I've just heard it from you. And then I was telling a coworker about the podcast, and I'm like, yeah, here's the name of the feed. We have a YouTube channel if you want to watch, the live streams. And he looked up the YouTube channel, and he's like, you did an episode about Dark? I love Dark.
Again,
it's
like, one of the ones that's like,
didn't.
hey, here's a hot new episode from like 5 years ago.
Right. Like, that's not me there, but you're still welcome to listen. We still get the page views, so thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that I get to talk about Dark now. It's my turn.
Yes, exactly. Well, let's see. Spoiler-free thoughts first. We'll get into spoilers after. But we watched season 1. It's 10 episodes. What did you think?
It's a great show. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
It's stylistically such a treat. It's so moody and atmospheric. I love how it's shot. There's a lot of different faces to keep straight, given as that you mentioned it's a time travel show and there's a lot of flashbacks and you'll see like 3 different actors playing the same character throughout their lives. So it's a lot to wrangle in, but I feel like once you get a hang of remembering everybody's faces, like you can follow it easily enough. Yeah, it truly is very dark. We were talking the other night and then we were signing off and you were like, okay, cool. Well, I hope you have a chill, relaxing night. And I'm like, well, I'm going to watch Dark. So I don't know if that's relaxing. I enjoy the show, I guess, but there's no fun. Zero fun, sir.
Right? Time travel is no fun, sir. Yeah, no, I really, really enjoy this show. I think, yeah, it's very moody, very atmospheric. It's a visual treat. Those opening credits, man, they are so good. They are beautiful.
It's the best part of the show. Not to put down the rest of the show. It's just that those opening credits are that good.
Yeah, and it's kind of offensive that Netflix still has the like skip intro button. It's like, no, I want to watch this. I've seen it a million times, but it's great. I love it. But yeah, no, it's a show that to me, having seen the entirety of the show, there is not a wasted moment. Like every scene has some sort of significance and stuff. And I think even though, Melissa, you might not know where the show is going right now, I think you can start to tell that. Like,
I presume
there's more going on here than I'm realizing, isn't
Definitely.
there?
Given the cyclical nature, I can presume that the show is going where I've already seen it be.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, and yeah, it's overwhelming at times. I remember being just enthralled by the show, but at the end of watching season 1 for the first time, still being confused on like, okay, I don't really understand who everyone is or how they all fit in or why this scene or that scene is important or stuff like that. But yeah, it was one like, I need to keep watching this because this is cool. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I think season 1 especially does a great job of really giving you this feeling of there is a mystery or there is this conspiracy and there is this nostalgia to season 1. I think is neat because they do, which I'm sure we'll mention it more when we get into spoilers and stuff. But they do this neat thing to kind of visually help you understand who is who, where they do a lot of side by side shots of like, here's the younger, here's the older version, or here, here's one shot of this character, and then here's a shot of that same character, but the younger version, and it helps a lot to just impress on you like, hey, there's a lot of stuff happening here. We get that. You're not gonna understand it all by the end of season 1, but this stuff will help.
Yeah.
So all of that. Melissa, you found a good resource that I want you to mention for this show.
Yeah. Immediately, I think by episode 3, I was like, I can't survive this without a family tree. Because we keep adding like new characters in, and I can't, like, there's 3 kids. I can't keep the kids straight and all of this stuff. So I did Google it, and there is an official one from Netflix, which is very helpful.
Yes.
It's dark.netflix.io. And what's great about this is that you can pick the specific episode that you were watching, and it will show you information relevant to that episode. So it won't spoil you. It won't reveal something. It won't show this is this person's parent when you haven't met that person yet.
Yeah. Which is potentially spoilery. Like I to be honest, I didn't even look at that family tree website you had until like yesterday, and they also have a family tree on like the Wikipedia page, but don't look at that one. Because that one has spoilers.
Right. Like if I did
like
find this site, I was just going to ask you, like, Kyle, you've already seen everything. Will you send me a safe family tree for me to look at?
Yeah. So it's great that you found that, because that will help out a ton.
Yes.
But you don't want to be spoiled because the family trees of these characters can spoil some stuff.
Yeah, although there is some things where it's not a spoiler, but the way they've laid out the family trees, where it's like, here's one family, and then they happen to be placed next to another family, and these 2 people's photographs are not connected, but they're just visually placed next to each other. You look at those 2, and you're like, I think there's something going on there.
Yeah, there's some time travel shenanigans going on there, isn't there? Yeah, so it's an interesting show. It's fascinating. I highly recommend you all go check it out. It's 3 seasons, and it's done. So it's absolutely worth your time, and I'm so excited to talk about this in its entirety for the next couple months here. So there you go. With that, let's try and do a basic plot synopsis. It's going to be difficult. Do you want to tackle this one, or
I'll try it? Yeah.
Oh, cool. Go.
Yeah, there is a. It's the year 2019. There's a small town.
Year,
a small. there's a small forested town in Germany with a nuclear power plant in it. Seems like that's what draws in the business, but otherwise, real small little town. And a boy has gone missing. This teenager has gone missing. People are not sure. Was he kidnapped? Did he run away? We don't know. And the whole town is on edge about this. And more boys keep disappearing. And there's like some fellow teens, their peers are on edge about this. You see the adults, you see, their parents, you see the local detectives. All the adults have got all of these drama, like there's several affairs going on. There's hidden illnesses. There's all kinds of stuff. And then we come to learn that there is some sort of a time travel portal in the town that some people have been aware of, and they've been trying to use it for things. So there's maybe in the background kind of a secret war going on about, now that we have this, how do we use it? What do we use it for? Should we use it to prevent bad things? Is it even possible to prevent those things?
Yeah. And seems like the main character is kind of is discovering this all and starting out on a journey to try and fix some stuff.
Yeah.
It's that I think it's about as good of a plot synopsis for season 1 that you can kind of do. Yeah, it's definitely a complicated show, but if you're into time travel fiction, highly recommend it. It is phenomenal. So
Yeah.
there you go. There you go. With that, Melissa, we will take a short break for some housekeeping, and we will be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you would check them all out. You can find out more information on our websites at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at our $3 tier, and you can get a shout out and thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/thewhatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. So big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier and above. So thank you to Sam so much.
Thanks,
we
Sam.
love you and appreciate you. Thank you for helping us out. It means a lot. Let's see. It is also E3 season. Lots of video game announcements are happening right now. So you guys should be keeping your eye on our podcast called Crossplay. It's our video game podcast. We just recorded a really long one yesterday. But this next week, Melissa, you will be joining us on the show, despite having almost no knowledge of video games.
Very little.
You're gonna be joining us so we can use you as a magic 8-ball and do all of our E3 predictions and stuff like that. So
just guessing randomly. I'd also like to shout out our podcast feed, The Reactor Core, where we talk about brand new things, blockbuster movies, the newly launched TV shows. We've been talking about the MCU shows over there. And one of the reasons we're doing Dark right now is it's a time travel show. This will coincide with Loki, featuring the Time Variance Authority. So be on the lookout for little weekly mini episodes every week once Loki starts, talking about those episodes.
There you go. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. With that, though, I think that is all the housekeeping we have. So let us get into spoilers. There we go. We are officially in spoiler territory. Time travel shenanigans are all around us. All sorts of stuff.
I wish we had a true shenanigan in this show. Like, you say that, and it's just like, boy goes to past, can't leave, doesn't try to leave, thinks he's stuck there, grows up, marries a woman, sees his own self be born.
I mean, there is shenanigan. There is the scene. He's like, I kissed my own aunt. What in the world?
Yeah, poor Jonas.
Yeah.
He's trying.
Yeah. So, Melissa, where do you want to start with this show? Since you're new to this, what stood out to you? It was there. Well, let me ask you this. You did say that this was a good show, but like, was there something about this that surprised you?
What I really like about the show, I think one of its strongest factors is the method of time travel. I was thinking about this earlier. Sure. The concept of time travel, it's intimidating, it's frightening, it may fill you with an existential dread, but the method of it is never anything that challenging. You get in a DeLorean, you get in a phone booth. I think those guys in Primer just rented like a storage cell and put their weird electronic box in it.
Yeah.
This method of time travel is that you have to go down into a cave and open this little metal door and crawl through this tunnel, this small tunnel, deep into this network of caves. And then and it's completely dark. And then you're going to reach this 3-way meeting point where you look over to the other tunnels and they're shrouded in darkness. You don't know where they're leading, where you're going. You know, you're so tightly cramped in there. Like if you have to leave, you have to crawl backwards. It's so claustrophobic and threatening. And if you pick a tunnel, you'll wind up in the past, but you don't know which one leads to you where. It's so easy to get lost and turned around. Time travel might not even get you. Maybe you just suffocate down there and die from normal reasons.
Yeah, you never know.
I've never seen a method of time travel that is that difficult and terrifying to do.
Yeah, it's claustrophobic as they like crawl in that cave and in those like tight spaces to do all of that stuff. But it's interesting because it does really make it feel like there is this secret. There is this like ancient like something has been going on here for generations.
Yeah.
This is weird. And it has like a weird like religious connotation with the with all the like symbolism that they have. But yeah, it's neat because I think this show does something a lot of time travel shows don't really do or handle very well. Instead of positing that there's only 2 directions for you to go in, they say no, there's actually 3. There's past, present, and future. And they make a lot of conversation about like Einstein-Rosen bridges, which are basically tunnels. But it like the like pictures of them or the drawings of them that we have made are just this like 2-way tunnel. And I'm not even sure what that symbol is, but that like 3-way,
it's
like
sort of like a Celtic knot,
Celtic knot thing, that it is maybe more representative of that like interweaving of all of this time in the past, present, and future, and it just like they do it so creatively, and it's just like, this is really neat. Like I like how they do all of that stuff, because it does make you think of like, that does make sense that you can like, it's not just I mean, it basically is forward or backward still. When you think about it, but in a more visual representation from where you are, there's always 2 other directions you can go, which means you're on that 3rd point. So it's interesting to think about, for sure.
And there is some sort of a time travel device that we see later in the season. But outside of that, like, I like that it's not a time machine. It's like a time location. You know, it's like this is a natural defect of the area, that there's a time portal in beneath these caves.
Yeah. So there is this like naturally occurring spot in the town of Wendon. That's the thing that's in the caves and behind this like weird door with this Latin phrase, and there's the 3-way thing there. But they do make a time machine. They do have that device like you said, and that we haven't really seen it put to use yet. But they talk about it, they mention it, and that it will do the same thing as this like naturally occurring spot.
So you don't have to crawl through a series of cramped tunnels underground with no lights.
Right. Yeah. It's a fascinating show. I mentioned there is no wasted space, and I think so I watched the entirety of this show all last year. I started it like right before the 3rd and final season came out, so that I finished season 2 like the day before season 3 came out, and I just binged it all. So it's been almost a year, I think, since I watched it. But yeah, going back now, having seen the entirety of the show, it does make a lot more sense. Like I can follow things a lot better, but that happened to me this past year too, because I watched the entirety of the show last year, but I had seen season 1 back when we covered it on the Whatnauts podcast years ago. And on that second watching of season 1, it like still made a ton more sense. And it was just like,
that's
okay,
good.
Now I'm following this. But so yeah, it takes a bit to sink in there. But,
yeah, I think the show is straightforward in some areas. Like there are secret keeping characters. There's everybody's keeping a secret about something because there's so much like interpersonal drama. But everybody who knows stuff about the time travel and like the weirdness of the city, they're all keeping secrets. You never really know what they're doing. But all the other sort of civilian characters, it's always pretty clear what the objective is. Like there's so many people in the show. The time travel lore is complicated, but you're like, okay, Hannah is sleeping with Ulrich, who's married to Katerina, and she's the principal of the school. And the Ulrich's brother disappeared. Now his son disappeared, and he's looking for his son. And he thinks he like climbed behind the fence at the nuclear power plant. Like the day-to-day actions are like easy enough to track.
Yeah. It's it's because that's the thing. Like it is a hard sci-fi time travel show, but I think also what makes it so fascinating and interesting is all of these interpersonal relationships and all of these secrets, because there is just so much drama, and a lot of it is unnecessary, but because they are keeping those secrets or finding them out in certain ways, it does make for a wildly entertaining show. There's so much tension and it's so thick, and it like one of the reasons why I like this show and why I recommended it to you, Melissa, was because it reminded me of Lost. So take a drink if you now we've mentioned Lost now, as we normally do here. But in Lost, there's all kinds of secrets and interpersonal relationships and backstory and flashbacks, and this show has all of that in spades. And it like Lost ends up. If you want to have a good time with the show Lost, let's say that the show is more about the people and the relationships that they have than the actual mysteries that are going on there. I think this show maybe successfully handles both of them. Like it has all of those mysteries, but I don't feel like you're going to be disappointed in them. There are some things that I'll say like they mention them and then they don't bring them up, but it's they, like the main stuff that you're like I want to know what's happening with this and with that. Like you'll figure that stuff out, and that stuff's neat. But the characters are they might not be like, oh yeah, I'm rooting for you, you're a great guy, you're just a swell dude or something, but they're all just fascinating to watch. They're all just like, I want to know more about you. What's happening here in your life? Right. What's going on?
They're digging themselves deep into these social drama holes completely separate of any time travel nonsense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I like all that stuff. I feel like there's something kind of missing, and that we get very few bright spots in the series. Like there's characters where I know like, oh, you two are married, or you two are best friends, or you have a crush on her. I've never seen any of these people be happy with each other. Like there's very little moments of the show that are cute or sweet or touching.
Yeah,
you just recognize
it's very melancholy.
Yeah, you just recognize, yes, I understand you two are important to each other. You must have had good times that I don't get to see. I just see you falling apart only.
It's kind of funny because the like happiest scenes are kind of when they go into the 80s and it has that like, this song. Yeah, I like this song. And it's like, it's just the background music that's happy.
Yeah, and like some of the, it's mostly adults. We've got teens. We've got a couple younger kids. Like Mikkel is cute until Mikkel disappears.
Yeah, and you're like, oh no, Mikkel, what's going on? Yeah, it's
yeah. I wish there were. We got to see more of like the status quo. Like, who are you when you are happy, when things are going well, so that I feel the stakes of things not going well a bit stronger.
And it's like the few times that you do, it's either always interrupted by something really sad, or they're talking about something, sad and dark, or it is just still like completely dark. Like there's a school play that's going on in season 1, and it is I'm not sure what play they're doing or stuff like
I don't know.
But
I don't know if that's a pre-existing thing or if it's like something they wrote for that episode.
Yeah, and it is one of those things, again, there's no wasted moment. So a lot of the stuff that they're talking about in the play is mirroring things that are happening or will happen down the road. And it's just like, this is a depressing play.
Yeah.
Like this could have been fun. They could have been doing Grease, right? Like they could have been doing something else.
Yeah. You Arsenic and Old Lace. That's got laughs in it. You're doing this like this mythological parable with like a very stark set. It is impressive theater work for this small town high school. Like I would have gone to see that play if I could have. There are sweet things that happen in the show, but everything is such like tinged with sadness. Like I think about the scene where after Mikkel disappears, he's got these two older siblings, Magnus and Martha, and like their brothers disappeared. Their parents are fighting. Like the whole house is very tense. Both of them are separately having like relationship troubles with other kids at their school. And Martha's just like, I can't sleep. And she like crawls into her older brother's bed one night and they just like lay there next to each other and talk about their family. Like that's touching, but it's so, I wish I also got to see a scene where these siblings like, oh, we played a prank together on dad or something like that.
Frolicking, right? Something.
Yeah,
something
zero frolicking
like
in this show. I'd like to see some.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not much of that in season 2 and 3. There might be like 2 or 3 moments where there are some things like that, but yeah, generally speaking, that's not what this show is.
I think there's 2 laughs in this season. One is when Jonas goes back to the 80s and Egon Tiedemann picks him up and thinks he's like a teen of the time.
Yeah.
And he's talking to him about like what the teens are up to. And he's like, are you into Satanism? And Jonas is like, he laughs. He's like, oh no, Satan's not one of the problems. And the and like after Jonas realizes, oh, Mikkel went back in time, became my father, and we've got this whole Back to the Future thing where he realizes he's had a crush on his aunt the whole time, like Martha would be his aunt. But another thing he says is, I have a new grandma now, and she's the principal of my school.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some there's some comedy just in the like situation that is
there's ironic
happening.
Dramatic irony chuckles in here. Yeah,
for sure. So let's talk about some of the like time travel shenanigans that we do have here. So you mentioned Mikkel. Mikkel is one of the boys that goes missing. He's a young kid. He's the younger brother of Magnus and Martha. And this group, Magnus, Martha, and Jonas, and Mikkel, and Francesca,
and Bartosz.
Yeah, if I know a lot of people like to throw around the idea that like, oh yeah, this show is kind of like Stranger Things, and if you look at it through that lens, this is kind of that group of kids.
Yeah,
but the show isn't Stranger Things.
Yeah, I think Stranger Things is a helpful structural reference point. Like, I thought about that when we watched Typewriter, and I referred it to Stranger Things just in that we have investigating adults, we have investigating kids, like on separate paths.
Sure, yeah. But they are out and exploring the caves because they were looking for some drugs of another kid that disappeared.
Eric.
And they were like, he kept his stash, out by the bridge. So they went to go pick it up, ended up out by this mysterious cave, and strange things started happening. Their lights started flickering. They didn't really know what was going on. They heard a strange sound like they do in the pilot of Lost, and they're like, what's going on? And they all scatter, and they start to run back. And in the chaos, Mikkel disappears. We're not sure what exactly happened. And then, it turns out he somehow made it back to the 80s, from 2019 to 19 to 19 to 1986.
Because there's like a loop that happens every 33 years. So we flash back to 53, 86, and 2019, which was actually in the future. Like, I think the show was produced in like 2017.
Yeah. So, and then that's kind of when we start to figure out, okay, there's weird stuff happening here in this town. And then, as we mentioned before, Mikkel, who went back in time, stayed there. It's an interesting thing because there's a lot of things because of the time travel and how much this time loop is happening and has affected things that you would think someone would have picked up on this or something. Like there's a few things of like, how did you not know that? Or like, how did you not figure this or not see this or stuff like that? Like,
there's a particular moment where Mikkel goes back in time. He just starts going to school again in 1986. There's a photo of him, and like he's one of like 50 kids in this big, class picture. But it's up on the wall of that school where his mom is the principal. So like that she's like never really gone over and
looking at but like, you remember that one kid Mikkel? My son looks a lot like him. That's weird.
Right, like she's never really looked at those photos. And I understand that, like, of course you wouldn't have memorized every kid in every photo. But the fact that nobody going through that school has ever realized, like, nobody has just been having a stressed out time and they just like stare vacantly into the middle distance. Then their eyes slowly focus on a class photo from 1986. Like nobody's pointed out, wait, there he is. He's right there.
Yeah. Or that the grandma wouldn't have wouldn't have been like, wait a minute. You look exactly like the kid that I adopted. This is weird. You have on the same
No,
outfit.
she would. I think she would have figured it out. Because I think she knew, like, he was from the future.
She did kind of know, but still, it's like, well, why didn't you say anything? Like, what? Like, that's a weird thing to just keep a secret.
But what are you supposed to do? Like,
practically. I mean, sure. Yeah. I have no idea what to do or how to fix that. There's right, which is really nothing I can do. But it's still just like, I would have to talk to someone. Be like, right, God, which is you're never gonna guess what happened to me today. Like, right, like
Grandma Inez seemingly never, as far as we know, never tells anyone about the time travel. When Jonas finds out about the time travel, the only person he can go talk to is her. He chooses to not share this with with his mom, and it is so awkward and heartbreaking that like Martha still is a crush on him. Like Martha wants to get back together with him because it seems like maybe they had a little fling the year before Mikkel, grown up to be the dad known as Michael, committed suicide, and Jonas went away to a psychiatric facility for some time after that trauma. Like, he's breaking up with Martha, and like, you know that he's like, I can't do this, but I can't tell her why. He's just like, it's wrong. It's wrong. We're wrong together. We're a bad match. It's wrong. And she kisses him, and he like kisses her back for like 2 seconds and then stops. And she's like, this is wrong. And he's like, yes, it sure is. Please let me leave.
Yeah. It's they have a lot of moments like that where it's just like someone should have known. And then eventually some people do find out, because we have Ulrich, who is Mikkel's father, who is also a police officer in the town, who is one of the characters that when he was younger, you wouldn't think he would be a cop, but his younger brother went missing 33 years ago, and he thought the police he thought the cop on the case did a terrible job, and so he was like, I want to be a better version of that and do it right, so that stuff like this doesn't happen to other people. And I guess he kind of made that happen, because it happened to him again. But he ends up going back in time a little bit farther, and he ends up going all the way back to the 50s. And he sees the town like right before they start building the power plant and all of that stuff, but he has it in his mind that it is this character named Helge, that he is the one that is kidnapping these children and making them disappear and all that stuff. And he's like, hey, if I go back in time and kill him before he did any of that stuff, I will save them. And so there is this like kind of really uncomfortable scene where he is in the 50s with this child version, who at first he doesn't really know like who he is, and he's just like, hey, next time you fight someone, make sure you bite them. And that's what the kid does. He bites him to run away. But there's this uncomfortable scene where he's smashing this kid's face in with a rock.
And you'd think that, I was guessing at least, like, oh, maybe he's going in, like, he's exhausted. He's so manic that the fact that he's lost his son and this mysterious dead body has shown up that might be his brother who disappeared in 1986, but it looks like the body just died a couple days ago. Who knows what that is? So, like, he's absolutely manic, and he goes back in time, hell-bent on killing this boy. And I thought maybe he would have a change of heart. He's a father. He's got 2 boys. He had this little brother. No, he does not waver from his goal, and he does his best to kill that boy. And he like clobbers him, and then he locks him up in this little tool shed, believing
he
he's dead.
He killed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like he thinks he killed him, and he's like, good. Like I at least did this. I saved my kids. All of that stuff. And shortly after, he finds out that no, the children are still dead. Like that's like you didn't fix anything. And so he's confused of like, did Helge do it or not? Did I kill him or not? I don't like, he's just like, I don't know what actually happened then. But I don't know if you put this together, because this is something that I don't think I really thought about last time I watched this show. So, why am I don't remember her name. The girl that is mute, and I think
yes,
too.
She's Elizabeth.
Yeah, she's really neat. I like her, but she has this.
She's fun.
Boyfriend character in school. She's super young, so it's like boyfriend.
Yeah, they're both like 10
quotes. Yeah. His name is Yassine. He gets kidnapped too, and he disappears. And it's Yassine and the red-headed boy Eric that are the bodies that are found in the 50s. I didn't realize that second one was Yassine. Like I recognized the red head, like, oh, that's him. But then I was just like, wait, who's that second guy? Like I don't know.
Yeah, Yassine I don't think was wearing anything distinctive. Yeah, I realized it was him, but it's easy to miss.
It's not distinct, but they also like don't really mention him. Like he never really comes back in the show. Like his family never comes back, really. It's just like, well, he's dead now. Move on.
This is something I was wondering about, because episode 1, Eric has just gone missing. We see Eric's parents like in this big scene at the police station where they're frantic. They're just like, why aren't you doing more to find our son? It's been like 3 days. Where's our boy? And I think Charlotte or Ulrich or somebody's like, okay, like we've got it. Yeah. We're working on it. You need to calm down. You need to go home. And then we never see them again. You know, we see Yassine's parents for like 1 episode. We never see them again. Like as soon as Mikkel disappears, the entire, like every person's perspective who we're getting on the kidnappings, on the disappearances are filtered through, oh, it's Mikkel. We got to find Mikkel. And then eventually those other kids. And it's odd because like we've got Mads, we've got Mikkel, like we've got all of these disappearances, like all these missing boys that are very related to other plot characters. They're very relevant. We don't know anything about Eric or his parents. We don't know anything about Yassine or his parents. There's these 2 sort of odd outliers that just seem like collateral damage in the whole thing.
Yeah. So they definitely focus on certain families or family or stuff like that, right? Because it's all mixed in. But yeah, they do focus on that stuff.
I have a question for you.
Yes,
as much as you feel like I'm supposed to know at this time, do we find out why it's been exclusively boys that have been taken for this weird experiment thing?
Good question. I don't think so. To be honest, I think it might just be, it just happened to be
okay. Because like we've got a case of like, it's a small enough sample size that I'm like, is this just a coincidence that it always happens to be these boys? Because like there's not a shortage of young female characters around. Not that I want them to be kidnapped. I was just wondering, like, is there some ultimate purpose behind that?
I don't remember there being a reason for that. But I could be wrong. But
just being told that there isn't a reason and I don't have to keep wondering about it is fine.
that works indeed. Let's talk a little bit about Noah. What do you think about Noah so far.
What is there to think about Noah? He's very obviously a creepy villain, man.
He is indeed.
Although he does give that interesting speech where he's like, there's a light side and a dark side to this, and you may not see it, but I swear to you, I am the light side. That seems suspicious, but given how much
that sounds like something a villain would say, right?
Yeah, but we also keep getting all of these reveals. It's like, I have no context to really prove you wrong right now. You might be right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything yet.
Yeah. He definitely shows up like as this antagonistic character. He maybe seems to be one of the ones kidnapping people, or at least one of the ones where it's like, I'm not getting my hands dirty, but I am sending these other people to go do this stuff. And yeah, he is very menacing and very intimidating, and we do see this one scene where he has this giant back tattoo of like all this Latin and that like
all this red dragon
that,
stuff.
That like Celtic knot triangle thing. I don't know exactly what that symbol is, but he has like it. Like this guy is like, whatever conspiracy is happening, this guy is 100% in. He is 1,000% in on this stuff. And yeah, he is this very mysterious character. If I'm not mistaken, when we talked about this show years ago, I was wondering, since there is some like religious symbolism in this stuff, I was wondering if like is there going to be more of that? Like, is this a devil character? Like, is that who he is? Is he a demon somehow? I'm not sure. Well, I know, but like at this point in the show, you don't know much about him, and he is mysterious, and you are like, this show is just pulling the rug from under me like every time. Like, I don't really know what's happening here. So I guess that's maybe my next question. What are your theories, or what are your thoughts of like what is happening? Do you have a hunch or something?
Oh, not so much. There's
just letting it all happen.
I've had some hunches, not less connected to like the time travel lore, because I imagine that's over my head. They may call in some physics theory I've never heard about to like prove or like add something to the time travel aspect. So it's like, I'm not spending brain space on there. I'll just sit down and let them explain it to me when they're ready. But I was wondering about like who might be somebody, see, and this is what I was referring to earlier. Like the show doesn't really hint that Mikkel grows up to be Michael, but when you look at that family tree, it just happens that those two families, separate seeming families, are just visually placed next to each other, and you see those photos near each other, and you're like, aha, I see. Like, it doesn't give it away, but you can very easily draw that conclusion yourself. And I wondered, how many times is this going to happen? And a character I was wondering about was Alexander Tiedemann, because I realized a couple episodes in, oh, wait a minute, he took his wife's name. We meet her, we meet when she's younger, we meet her mom, and I'm like, oh, Tiedemann's their last name. Maybe, I don't want to disparage the man. Of course, there doesn't have to be a spooky ulterior motive behind a man choosing to take his wife's name. But I wondered, is he one of these lost in time travel people? Where he didn't have a last name, or like his last name was something he felt like he couldn't say when he landed. I was really interested in them. I dig the Tiedemans. I think that's my favorite corner of these characters. I like that when we first meet them, they're kind of disconnected from everything. Like, we see all of these stressed out parents stressed about these disappearances and all these interpersonal affairs. And we meet Regina, who runs this local hotel, And she's like, you'd better solve this disappearance soon or nobody's going to want to stay at my hotel. I know it looks very fancy, but if I don't get new clients in, like if I don't get new people staying here, like I'm going to go broke. Like she had this very specific, clear, sympathetic conflict in her life. Like she's not going about it the best way, but you do understand where she's coming from.
Yeah.
I'm worried too. I'm also a citizen in this town, but I'm the one spot of tourism in the town also. Like I need people to feel like they can tour the town again and their kids won't get zapped out of nowhere.
Right, yeah.
I liked her and Alexander. Like that's the only stable seeming marriage in the show. Like she has breast cancer that she hides from him initially. But you know, they're not cheating on each other. It doesn't seem like they have that many secrets. And like when he confronts her about that, like they cry and they hold each other. Like that seems like the most loving, stable marriage out of all of the adults that we have in the cast. And yes, to like go back to see them in the 80s and you're thinking, I haven't seen Alexander show up yet. You know, did he move here later as an adult? Like maybe not every single adult character was also a teen here in the year 1986. But yeah, I was wondering, like, does Jonas get stuck? Does Jonas become him? Does somebody grow up and be Alexander? But no, this boy just stumbles bloody with a gunshot out of the woods and you have no idea still at the end of the season where he came from, what he's doing. That was a really fun later stage addition to everything that's going on in this story. I think that's a very exciting little corner of mystery. Absolutely.
I like the Tatumans a lot too, but I like Egon. I think he's one of my favorite characters in the
He's
show.
Interesting to watch, yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, when you see him in the 50s and he's this like young guy, younger in comparison, but like, yeah, this young guy who's just trying to do a good job. He's absorbed in his work. His marriage is kind of falling by the wayside because of that. But he's genuinely trying to do the right thing and do a good job. And he grows up to be this cop that has gone through a divorce, that is now into drinking, and he's not doing a great job, you know? Like he's kind of tragic, but yeah, he is also this, like, he grows up to be this kind of bumbling, not idiot, but like just like I think a lot of people are kind of dismissive of him there, because as you said, there is that one moment when he picks up Jonas in the 80s and is like, are kids into Satanism now? And it's just like, oh my god, like you're an idiot. No.
Yeah, like he's very focused on his job, is not always following the right path, but he's on the path.
Trying. He's
on it for sure.
Yeah.
Like he's loyal to his job, even if he has no idea what the best way to do it is.
Yeah, he's a good character, but he also has this like grudge against Ulrich for multiple reasons. And yeah, it's interesting to see them interact in all of these multiple different like time spaces. Where they don't necessarily realize that they're interacting with one another, or one of them does and the other one doesn't, or stuff like that. It's just like, this is fascinating to watch here. So
speaking of young Ulrich, that was something that I was keyed into when we start having the 1980s flashbacks and you're still putting together like, characters can go back in time, get stuck there and grow up and become characters we've already seen. It was like, teen Ulrich looks a lot like Jonas, which you find out later is because that's his grandpa.
Yep.
Yeah. A wild, very small twist in the show for me is that there's an episode, and you're not, it's in 1986, but you don't know exactly when in 1986, where you see Regina tied up to a tree in the woods. And you learn that Ulrich and Katerina tied her up there, and you think that's because this is after they believed that she lied to the cops about them. No, you find out that was before the whole thing. Like, even when, as far as we know, they had no specific reason to, like, they don't have any reason to have a grudge against her. Maybe they think she's a dork. Maybe they're teasing her, which is, like, and they tied her up in the woods. That's how you tease a girl at school you don't like. You just tie her up and leave her in the woods.
Leave her for dead. Yeah.
That was a wild little scene for me. And like that, I think that adds a lot to Regina's character and how much she's gone through. I am curious about, of course, there's 1,000 normal, everyday biological reasons she could have this cancer. But given that she's tied up in the woods out there by the cave, by the time travel machine, her mom works for the nuclear power plant, her future husband goes to work for the nuclear power plant. Like, she could be, this could be the fallout from some nuclear thing that has happened around her. And like, she's paying the price for it unbeknownst to her later on. We'll have to see.
I would say that is a good bet because of the stuff that we see of the power plant. When Claudia takes over, that's Regina's mom. She kind of looks at the books and all the numbers and stuff, and she notices something is wrong. She's like, this doesn't add up. Like, this is not what it's supposed to be. And you find out that there was some kind of accident or explosion where they had to shut down like an entire floor, and they haven't told the town. And it is this thing of like, hey, if we tell them, no one's going to want to come here. No one's going to want to work here. They're going to not have faith in nuclear power. And therefore, this town would just disappear. And so, we see in the caves that there is this section of the caves that just have what seems to be like hundreds of these barrels of nuclear waste that they have like sectioned off and made sure no one can find them and stuff like that. And it's just like something is also going on at this nuclear power plant, and we don't know what it is yet. I think just being around the radiation of this stuff, I would assume like, hey, it's the radiation that has given her this cancer and stuff like that. So, let's talk a little bit about Hannah. How do you feel about Hannah?
Hannah's one of the first characters who we meet in the series. And because of that, I thought I didn't see a second of the show before I clicked play on it. I just heard about it from you, and I knew, it's a German time travel drama. Like, I didn't know who our characters were. I didn't know the tone of the thing. So I'm like, is this our protagonist? I can't figure out who our protagonist is yet. I think at the end of the day, it seems like it's arguably Jonas. But we see her, we find out their husband died like the year before. She's sleeping with Ulrich. Ulrich, who was cheating on Katerina with her. But her and Ulrich seem, at the beginning, in those first couple scenes, seem like they have a good rapport with each other. Like, maybe that is a true love. It's unfortunate that he is cheating on his wife to get there, but maybe this could be the person he's meant to be with. And to think that that's where at scene one, I thought what the show was. It's wildly different.
Right. Yeah. No. So it just hit me while you were mentioning that it's maybe a good thing that they didn't mention it. So maybe apologies for mentioning this, but now that you think about it, Jonas's grandfather is sleeping with his mom then. So that's a weird one.
It is, which is something that hits Jonas later on. This man is sleeping with the woman who is, in a sense, his daughter-in-law. Yeah.
So strange stuff there. But she's an interesting character because she is mixed up in all sorts of things.
Yeah.
She has this big crush on Ulrich to the point that it's vindictive against Katharina. She is the one that when they were teens went to the cops to say that he raped Katharina, even though that's not what happened. And she has been like trying to manipulate her way to be with him. And she's mixed up in that and the drama that goes with that. But then she also is like the only person that knows Alex's secret, that he's not who he says he is. That's not his real name.
And what's wild is that she started out as this woman who I thought, oh, it's unfortunate your husband killed himself. Seemed like maybe you didn't have the best marriage. Like, you know, you didn't love each other as much at the end, but still you felt a loss. You're seeking comfort in this other man who you may truly love. Like no, what you think about Hannah in scene 1 is like, no, you've been like dangerously obsessed with that guy, like since you were in high school. You saw him having consensual sex with his girlfriend. Were so upset about it that you lied and said that you saw him assaulting her. And then when like Katharina mentions that to her, she's like, oh, I don't know who would have said that. Maybe it was Regina. So just throws all that blame on Regina. Yeah. And then sees Alexander in the woods, and she sees him like stumble out of the woods. Like he's got like a shopping bag with a gun and like maybe like his old passport and a passport that he stole from some guy. He hides it in a bag in the woods. And she digs it up and keeps it for 33 years, has got that in her back pocket. Like she's playing the long game with every manipulative thing that she does. And she brings that out to him and she says, I want you to just like after Ulrich here in contemporary times, like breaks up with her. Like we're not having this affair anymore. I don't want to see you again. She takes that stuff to Alexander and is like, you're going to destroy Ulrich. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to do it.
Yeah, or I will let everyone know that you are not who you say you are, Boris.
Yeah.
Or whatever your name is. Who knows if Boris is your real name.
It was shocking to find out that she did something, you're right, so vindictive when she was that young. And then has been playing a long game for further other vindictive things for the majority of her life. And there's a sense of, there's the time travel mystery around the show, sure. But there's also these smaller, not really mysteries, but like there's a lot of areas where we don't know any of the context. We don't know the whole story. Because like Katharina finds out Ulrich has been sleeping with Hannah. She goes to Hannah's house and she confronts her. And she's like, how long has this been happening? And I'm like, honestly, me as an audience member, I also don't know that. Like, we're in the same boat as Katharina. I don't know. Has this been going on for years? Did this just start like after Mikkel, grown up to be Michael, died? Like, I would also ask these questions.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff we don't have context for yet. There's still a lot of information that we don't have. Because we've now gotten the older version of Claudia. She is a mysterious character of like, who is this old woman here claiming to be Bartosz's grandma? And she seems to be very militant. That's weird.
And like we see at the end of one of the like early to mid episodes, we see like actual photographs of all of the characters like pinned up in a big conspiracy board, and the camera zooms out and you don't really know, like, is this a real physical thing in the show that somebody has put together, or is this like a narrative conceit that's not a physical thing, that's a visual metaphor that the show is using? But no, it was her. She put the whole thing together in a cave.
Been tracking it all. Yeah. We don't know that. We don't know much about the watchmaker and what his whole deal is. We don't know much about the relationship between I'm blinking on her name again. The woman who's the cop that is like
Charlotte.
the chief of
Yeah.
Charlotte. We don't know much about Charlotte and her relationship with Noah. There seems to be something there because he gave that their daughter the stopwatch and said this used to belong to Charlotte.
Oh yeah.
And she's looking at this like, huh, this is strange. What did this Noah look like? So yeah, there's things with that. We don't really know what the husband is up to exactly because he's there with the older version of Claudia, as well as Ulrich's father is there too. They're up to something like there's still so much that is just like what is going on in this town.
And like you become suspicious of every hole in the character map. And like, for example, we don't know who Regina's father is. I don't think that's mentioned. We don't know who Peter's mother is. Like, are these just parents who we have yet to meet? And that's why they're not on the character map I've been looking at. And then they were like normal civilian people who led quiet, normal lives and like have died. And it's not relevant, or is that a purposeful hole? Like, are we going to find out like this person was secretly sleeping with this person, or this person like went back through time and there's a time loop, and that's why that character doesn't have a full set of parents? Like, I don't know if I'm This is a show that lends you to overthinking everything. Everything becomes suspicious.
That's what I love about this, what I love about Lost, what I love about shows like that, because I'm theorizing like, well, if Mikkel went back in time and stayed there, are there other characters similar that either like got stuck in a different time and stayed there, or did they come to the future and stay there? What happened here? And yeah, there's all sorts of theories of what could be happening there. And I love just thinking about all of that stuff.
Another small moment is back in 1953 when Ulrich's grandmother and his father, who's like 12 years old at this time, when they come to town and they are staying with Egon Tiedemann and his wife in like they're renting a room in their large house. And she's like, oh, I moved. My husband died recently, and I wanted to move to get a change of scenery, move to this town. And I came here because my grandmother lived here long ago and always spoke fondly of it. And Egon says, oh, what was your grandmother's name? And then they get cut off. Like somebody comes in the room and the conversation changes. And like, I don't know what that answer could have been to have been something revelatory, but the fact the show's kind of keyed in that you're watching for any possible connections. It's like, oh, nope, you're not getting that one.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing too that that character ends up being a lesbian or at least bisexual. Like it is the like repressed housewife kind of sexuality thing. Like what's going on there? Did you kill your husband? What's going on? I don't know.
I love this little corner of mystery and that it's completely unrelated to the time travel stuff. Like seemingly. Like you just see she comes to town. She's got this 12-year-old son and she says, my husband died recently. We came here looking for a change of pace. And it's like, did your husband just die? Did you kill your husband? Did he not like who you were? Did you kill him to defend yourself? There's a scene where the son, Trant, I think is his name, he pulls up his sleeve and he's got all of these burns on his arm. And it's like, did your dad do that to you? Did your mom kill him in self-defense? Did your mom do that? Was this somebody else? Like everything could mean a lot of different things, and you don't have enough context yet to figure out what direction anything is going in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like I said, like at the end of this show, by the end of season 3, most of your questions will be answered. But
Okay.
yeah, there are some stuff where it's just like, yeah, that at the end of the day, that's not important. Like,
I'm
you don't
okay
need to
with
know
there
who
just
this
being
person's parents are or stuff
yeah,
like that. You know?
I'm okay with there just being sideline weirdness, like the drugs that the teens are casually into. I don't need more of that. I don't care where they're getting the drugs from. That's not important. But like, I'll take it as like a minor distraction.
There is one thing that I will say. It's not a spoiler for like the plot of the show and stuff like this. This is one of the unsolved mysteries in the show, which is why I feel like it's okay to mention it. And it's like, it's something you're not going to really know. There is the guy that works at the police station with the like eye patch thing.
I've been wondering about him too.
We don't we learn a little bit more about him. We never find out what happened to his eye, and
that's fun.
It's a question that gets brought up by multiple characters, or like it's one of those things where like he's about to say what it is, and then that like he gets cut off.
That's
or
good.
Stuff. So yeah, there are a few things like that where it's just like, yeah, what did happen? You said it was this weird thing that happened, but you didn't say what the actual story was.
I love when there's a show as a variety of mysteries, like big, heavy
that's good
mythology and lore mysteries, character, like dark backstory mysteries. Which boy will she choose mysteries? And I love the shows that give room for smaller, quirkier things like that. Like, how'd that guy get an eye patch? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a mystery that we allow ourselves to have a little fun with. It's not,
exactly.
You don't have to take it as seriously as anything else.
Exactly. Yeah, it's good. It's a fun show.
Fun is relative.
Is no fun. Yeah,
it gives your brain like a lot to chew on.
Exactly.
That's pretty exciting, even though you do wish like, I wish I had something I could laugh at. I wish I could see any two characters smile at each other. That would be nice.
Indeed. I think that's about all I have for now on this. Did you have anything else from season 1 that you wanted to talk about or mention?
I just want to shout out the visual style. We mentioned how great the opening credits are. I love this. Just the show excels at just mood. There's so many scenes where it's raining. Oh, there's so many scenes where it just has rained, and you're seeing like one of the recurring visuals is like the stoplight there at like the edge of the forest road. Reflecting on the wet pavement. It's beautiful. There's great establishing shots of the woods, which aren't always helpful because like the woods look the same from time period to time period. You're like, I don't know what we've just established, but thanks for that beautiful
part of
scenery.
The mystery too, though. Like when they come out of the cave, we've now seen, as far back as the 50s. And as we saw at the end of this show, we're now in the future. So we're in like, I guess what's 2019 plus 33, like 42 or something like that.
52?
We're in 20. I don't know. I can't do math, but yeah, like we're now we've now seen multiple time periods, so that it's this thing of like whenever someone walks out of the cave, you almost it's a mystery of like, okay, when are we? What's happening?
It is 2052.
I
also want to just talking a bit more about the visuals before we close out. I love the settings in this show. Like Hannah and Jonas's house with all that wood paneling and that detailed wallpaper in the kitchen.
Greens and
it's a beautiful house. The scene with the play, that's excellent set design for that play. Like the way the caves look, the way like the nuclear offices look, the way Regina's hotel looks. There's good visual styling throughout the show. It's really nice to watch.
Yeah, it's absolutely a treat to watch. One thing that I really like about the visuals of this this show, and I think it's something we've mentioned in the past on the show, but the creators of this show not only wrote it, but one of the creators is the director of the show, and
Very
he is for the
Always good.
entirety of the show.
Oh, good. Like Mr. Robot.
Yeah, so like it is this idea that like the creators are making the story that they want to tell, and they're making it look like what they want to look like, and it really shows, and it's so good because of that. It's not I mean, as good as some shows are that have multiple directors and multiple writers and all of that stuff, it can often be like, okay, well, this one was obviously directed by someone else. We have a new creative team on that, but this show doesn't really do that. They have like a very small, tight-knit group of writers and one director. So yeah, it is this like they really made the show that they wanted to make, which is maybe one of the downfalls of Lost, where it's like they started out with this idea that they really wanted to make this and they had a direction, but they ended up just making up things as it went on and stuff like that. Whereas this, it's like, no, 3 seasons and we are done. That's it.
I can admire that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I do want to mention season 2 and 3 is slightly shorter. They're both 8 instead of 10.
Okay.
So yeah, it goes by a little bit quicker, but it's still just as good, if not better. Because yeah, we start to dive more and more into the story there. It looks like Melissa is having some trouble with her headphones, so I'm going to keep talking while all of that is going on. So one thing that's neat is like, as much as season 1 is like starting to introduce you to all of the stuff, it still is this this idea of like, hey, season 1 is really only act 1. Like, we're just getting started. So which is exciting of like, there's still so much that is like about to be revealed, and your mind will be blown and be like, oh my god, I didn't even think of that, and like so yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, this will be an exciting ride.
Indeed. Melissa, do you want to do an update on our bingo game?
Yes.
Going on here.
I just opened this up. I opened up Paint and then my headphones stopped working.
That's why I was like, okay, the headphones look like they're not working. I'm just gonna go ahead and
I had to take a second and reset them because I'm like, you have full battery. Why'd you just cut out on me? I don't know what.
Yeah.
Like, I would understand if I opened up a program that made noise, but I opened up Paint. You can't hear Paint.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so if you're unaware, here at the review show, recently we started a new thing where we are playing bingo kind of in the background as we watch and read all the stuff that we do here for the show. And on our bingo cards, we have a bunch of movie tropes and stuff like that. So as we watch these things, we're hoping to get a bingo, and winner gets a pizza. Melissa, I think the only one that I can truly say that I have on mine is the awkward hand touch. There is
That's good.
The scene where the two women are making the bed and they awkwardly touch hands there, and one tries to like, like, oh, I didn't do anything awkward, did I? So yeah, there is that. There's some that I think could be arguable.
Yeah.
I also have Mysterious Scar, but I think you could say that for
Oh.
Alexander, since he has the gunshot wound. But it's one of those things of like, well, actually, let me ask you this: how do we want to do bingo for these ones that we are covering over multiple weeks?
I think just normal. We'll do it at the end of every episode, like normal.
Sure, cool. That works for me.
For Mysterious Scar, I would count Helg's weird ear injury.
Sure, yeah.
He's got scars in his face too, but the ear is very noticeable. Yeah, I'll give you that. I think the only thing I can cross off, speaking of Helg, is meeting yourself from another time. That's the only character who gets to like really interact with himself from another time. We can imagine that maybe there was like some school fair where Michael and Mikkel may have been there at the same time, but like we don't see any of this.
Actually, I do have I think 2 more that I can do.
Oh.
Detective who makes the case personal. This is Ulrich.
Oh, definitely. I think we originally intended that as like you make it personal when it truly is not. It really is not connected to your past trauma as far as you can see it. But like,
you are right. We did mention that last time.
Such a prime example of it. Like
I mean, yeah, the case is personal. I will go ahead and not mark that one because we did mention that last time that like, yeah, we want the like he's not like it's not actually personally involved there.
Yeah, like a man who is investigating the disappearance of his own son and brother. Like of course it's personal
by default.
Right? Yeah, we need the detective who makes it personal.
Yeah. Okay.
This show had a lot of rain, but I don't remember if anybody fought in that rain. So I don't think I can cross off
between Jonas and Bartosz at the school.
Was it raining?
It was.
I don't remember them also being wet.
I remember it writing. But then,
well, you've seen season 1 3 times, so I'll listen to you.
Yeah, I guess another thing you could arguably say is the breakup between Jonas and Martha. Of like, this is wrong. We shouldn't like. It's a verbal fight. It's not a physical fight. So I don't know how you feel about that.
I think I meant like the dramatic fight physical. In the rain, but I feel like there's so much fighting and rain in this series. Like it might have been raining outside when Regina and Katerina were beating each other up. I don't remember. I'll go ahead and cross it off.
Fight in the rain.
Fight near to rain, I will also accept. Fight where in the background you can see rain. I'll take it. I'll take your word for it that some of these fights had rain that I don't remember. I feel like it's all usually drizzling in this town. It's not a dramatic rainstorm, but I'll take it. I'll take that one because I put down a lot of silly ones that we haven't quite hit yet. You know,
for sure.
Yeah. So far, I haven't seen anybody run out not eating breakfast. Yeah. I think like Katerina made the kids sit down and eat breakfast. We have Magnus running around with the one piece of toast in his mouth.
Yeah. There you go. I think that's all we got right now for bingo. That stuff. So what we also like to do here at the end of this stuff is give recommendations for if you liked this, you might also like that. For these end of the month specials, we do one at the start. So the first time we cover it, and then the last time we cover it. So Melissa, do you have recommendations that you would like to throw out there?
We've mentioned Lost plenty. There was a show we watched, I think back in 2018. It was a French crime drama called The Forest or La Forêt. That was, I wasn't as big a fan of the plot of that show, but it was similarly like excellently moody and atmospheric. Like it was a beautiful mood of a show to watch. but I didn't find that mystery as thrilling as I find this mystery. But if you really hooked on Dark and you want something even vaguely similar to it, you could watch The Forest. If you want time travel hijinks, just find the Futurama episode Roswell That Ends Well, where Fry goes back in time and becomes his own grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And this isn't, I don't know if I'd recommend this, but something like the experience of Dark reminded me of this other experience. In the year 2013, I sat down and over a 2-week binge period, I read all of Homestuck that there was to that date. You remember the webcomic Homestuck?
I never know it by name. Yeah.
Right. Like I read it at that time, and then there was like a long break between when new stuff came out. And then by the time new stuff came out, I was like, I forgot everything that happened. I went through it too fast. So I like never read beyond that point. I'm only up to November 2013 in Homestuck. No clue what the story went into after that. But it's also a story where there is like there's time loops, there's alternate dimensions and stuff like that. And there's all these characters that just seem like they were created out of other characters. It's like, oh, you're just me who got sucked back in time. You're just me who got sucked into another dimension. Like nobody is created in any natural way. Like I'm like, please, I just want to know that somebody like has biological parents. I want to know that a sperm entered an egg somewhere, and instead it's like, oh, well, I went through a portal. I went to another time and I lost my memory, and I became reformed as this person. That experience reminded me of Dark, where I'm like, everything's just the same thing in a loop. It's just repeating itself over and over again. There's nothing original.
Yep. If you want good time travel stories, we also mentioned Primer. Not as dark and moody as this show is, but it's just a good time travel story. Very, very well thought out and stuff like that. Another very well thought out time travel story that I really, really enjoy is the anime Steins Gate. This is more comedic. It's a lot more lighthearted, but there is a lot of tragedy, and it does kind of revolve around that. But it is also very well researched. But they also just have a lot of fun there. So I would recommend those. If you want more dark and moody stuff, there is another show on Netflix called Mindhunter, which is it's based on true events and stuff. It's about the FBI kind of studying serial killers and coining that term of just like how do we study them? How do we make the book on studying them and capturing them and stopping them? All of that stuff. And that one is equally dark and moody. I would also recommend Twin Peaks. Just with like the atmosphere and like something is up with this town. Twin Peaks is maybe a little more on the absurdist side. Yes. Not so much that it's a comedy or stuff like that, but still just like there's weird things happening in this town. But it does have that like town in the middle of like a big forest, and it's misty, and you know there's a big fog that's there on the town. And last but not least, I want to recommend kind of two stories by the same creator. They're both mangas. One of them has an anime adaptation. That one is Monster by Naoki Naoki Urasawa. And that is about a doctor who is given a predicament to save someone's life. There's two people that basically come in at the same time. One is a little bit more late, so he doesn't want to do that one, but that's the one that the hospital wants him to save because they're an important politician and all that stuff. But then there is the person that came in first and is a young boy who has a gunshot wound to the head, and he's like, well, like this guy, he came in first, he's the one that I need to save. And so he ends up saving that kid, and the kid grows up to be a serial killer. And so the doctor goes to like hunt him down and confront him. But it is this like long, like crawling mystery of like who this character is and where he is and all of it. It's wonderful. It's a great story. And then by the same creator, 20th Century Boys is one that I love. But it's more about a secret cult in this town, and one of the characters remembers like the plan that this cult is enacting to bring about the end of the world is something that he and his friends made up when they were kids, but none of his friends is the leader of this cult, so they're wondering like, how did you get your hands on this plan? Like, how are you actually enacting this? Like, we were 8 years old when we made up this stupid stuff. Like, why? Like, how is this possible? All of that stuff. And it's again this like sprawling mystery where you think you know, but then it's not, and then it's this thing and it's that thing, and it's really fascinating. So I would recommend those.
Nice.
There you go. Cool. So for next week, we are having a guest on the show, one of the co-hosts of our podcast Crossplay. We are having Alan Busby join us. He was on the show, I believe, at like the start of the year-ish. And we covered season 1 of My Hero Academia on the show. So he wanted to make a few pitches and come back on the show. Let's see, I have them all written down here. Pitch number 1 was season 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Pitch number 2 was The Way of the House Husband. And pitch number 3 was Castlevania season 1.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. So Melissa, you and I have had some time to think on all of that stuff. Do you want to let everyone know what one we are choosing?
Yeah, we're both pretty curious about The Way of the House Husband, which is something my brother Jams has been really into. He's talked about it a lot, and it's a like an ex, I think it's like an ex-Yakuza hitman who gets married, and his wife has some high profile, like she's a lawyer or something. I really don't know, but I guess I'll find out. But he leaves that world behind and becomes a house husband, but keeps running into, mischief of his old past.
Yeah. I've heard good things. There's a lot of excitement around this show when it hit Netflix. It's on Netflix. Season 1 is I think like 5 episodes, and they're all really short. Yeah. So it should be a quick one to watch. But I'm excited to get into that and see what that has in store for us this next week. If you are interested in joining us again for Dark Season 2, we will be doing that at the end of June. So join us. We record them the last Sundays of the month. So whatever that following Wednesday is, that's when our Dark Season 2 will come out there. So there you go. That's it. That's Dark Season 1. Melissa, I'm glad you got to watch this one. I'm excited we get to talk about this whole show. So good stuff there. Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, where me and my aforementioned brother watch weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember. And I think our latest episode is about the Disney Channel original movie Phantom of the Megaplex.
Nice.
About a phantom that may be haunting a megaplex.
There you go. Good stuff. You guys can follow me on Twitter at YoKyleSpringer. And if you want to stay up to date with all we do here at the Whatnauts and all of our shows, we are on Twitter at the Whatnauts. So go like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a foe, sell your soul, do whatever you need to do, travel back in time and tell someone. All of that good stuff. You guys know what to do.
Write a letter to your son in the future telling him that you're really his crush's kid brother. Exactly. And recommend this podcast.
Exactly. You know. They're about the same, right?
You will need this to comfort you, son.
Exactly. You guys can go like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff. You guys know the deal. But that wraps us up for this week. We will be back next week with The Way of the House Husband on Netflix. And with that, bye.
Bye.